Good morning, pre-algebra. Welcome to the last new lesson of the school year. Yahoo! You do have things to do every day this week to get ready for your final next Monday, June 8th. And I'm not giving you a giant sheet all at once. We're doing it a little bit at a time. So please, every single one of the homework submissions or video reviews has something in it for you that will help you to get ready for your final, to help you practice. So you need to make sure that you're turning in every single assignment, not just to turn in the assignment or just to say that you watched the video, but so that you can get the essential practice that you'll need. The forms are set to release instantly to you feedback. So you'll need to take a look at it, and whatever problems that I gave you for the day, make sure that you are acknowledging, looking at to make sure that you've done them correctly. Now, well, wait, what if you don't know how to do them? Well, here's the thing. All week long I'm trying to be extremely flexible on Zoom help, which means that if you are having trouble with something, please email me and we will set up an appointment for you to come on and get some help with Zoom. It can be in groups. I will set up times. I'll send out invitations so that we can do that. It can be individually to sit down and help, but in one way, shape, or form, we need to make sure that you get the help that you need if you need it, or you can study with friends and work it out so that you're sure that you can get the correct answers. All right. Now, that being said, this is just one more thing for us to take a look at for this year. Uh, I know you've seen percent somewhere in your past, but I want to hit it just one more time to put you in good footing for next year for algebra. Now, as far as what to do to wait, are we going to be quizzed or tested on this? It will not be on your final exam. However, on Thursday, you will fill out a quiz form for sections 4 and 5, and it will include questions directly unaltered from your last two assignments on those sections. It's 86 and 87. So please make sure that you've done a good job, that you've written down your work so you know what questions you're looking for. I'm not going to identify them by number. I'm just going to put the problems in one of those Google forms. It'll be an opportunity for everyone to get 100 because you will have been able by that point to have checked your work and make sure that you're all right. So we want to end with a good, strong, positive quiz grade that you have a whole long time to do, because you're just going to be inputting your answers from the homeworks, or some of the answers from the homeworks. And that'll be it. So let's talk about percents. I know that was a long intro, but let's talk about percents and just review that. I'm going to teach it as if you've never heard it before, just in case there was somebody who phased out or whatever in your past. Percent means per or out of 100. So 8% is 8 out of 100. Okay? Out of, per, 100, cent. Remember, think about money. A cent has to do with hundredths. So 8 out of 100 is 8%. Okay, so when you want to take a fraction and express it as a percent, you want to find out how much that is out of 100. Now there's another way that you can do it where you're moving decimal points all around, but this is not that. If you use this method, you're always going to find out your answer, how many percent, how many out of 100. 8 out of 100 is 8%. So when I get this number, I'm finding out how many percent. Well, wait, how do I solve this? You know how to solve this. This is cross multiplication. This is the best part. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply. Cross from here, 100 times 2 is 200. 5 times r is 5r. And we're going to divide both sides by 5, which means that r equals what I get when I take 200 divided by 5. And that gives me 4. We have a leftover 0, 40. So r is 40, which means that the answer to this question as a percent, 40 out of 100. 40, and then you write the percent sign. 40%. So that is that answer. I want to do a couple with you because it's good to practice. I think what you should do is pause the video just real quick and try the next one. We want to express 5/8 as a percent. 5/8 equals something out of 100. I can cross multiply. This is 500 equals 8r. Then divide both sides by 8. And r equals whatever we get by taking 500 divided by 8. Okay. 8 times 6 is 48. And I get 20. 8 times 2 is 16. And when you get here, you have options. You can either make it 62 and 4/8, or you can add a decimal point, and you can keep going. You can bring down another 0, and we get 5. I've run out, so I'm done. So 62.5. Yes, you can get a decimal here. Or you could have ended it with 4/8, which is 62.5%, which is the same. So my answer here, 62.5 out of 100 is expressed as 62.5 out of 100. 62.5%. All right. All right, let's look at this one. This one has a numerator that's bigger than a denominator. And that's just fine. You can have that. You're still looking for making it into a percent. How much out of 100? Cross multiply. 700 equals 4r. Divide by 4. R equals whatever I get when I take 700 divided by 4. That's 1. Oops, that should be a 4. I already did that subtracting in my mind. Do you ever do that? But then you take a look at it, and that's why you do things with a pencil and an eraser in case your brain gets ahead of you. So you can look at it and make sure that you did things right. Bring down the 0. 4 times 7 is 28. 2. Bring down the 0. And we get 4 times 2. 14. Oh, wait, no, not times 2. 4 times... Oh, where did I get that? 4 times 2 is 8. It's not 14. I was thinking of the 7. All right, let's get our brain back in gear here. I want 4 times something is 20. That one's easy. 4 times what is 20? And as you thought it through, 4 times 5 is 20. Once again, always good to have a pencil, always good to be checking and thinking it through as you go. So I have 175 here. You might have thought, wow, can I really have 175%? Yes, you can. You can have over 100%. It depends on what you're comparing, what kinds of things. Okay, but 175% is used in some contexts. Okay, let's move on and let's look at some word problems dealing with percent of. We already talked a lot about this is how many out of 100. The amount out of 100. The words is and of. The words is and of in a word problem can help you figure out what numbers go where. It's not actually is, but it's a number that's close to is. And it's a number close to of. And remember, this is just what number out of 100, what percent. So we just need to go through. I want to take this one. This one's not one to solve, but it's great for showing this. So 32 is 32 is 64%. 64%. Oh, that's the amount out of 100. 64 out of 100. There's my percent. 64% of, and here's my of part, of 50. $32 is 64% of 50. And those words, when you look at those words, they line up very well. A lot of people think is over of equals the amount out of 100, or the percent of 100, percent. Okay, the rate out of 100 is over of. Okay, so let's do this. Let's set this problem up as is over of. I'm going to keep the color codes the same throughout this. Is over of equals percentage out of 100. Okay, so you're always going to set up your proportions something like that. And you're going to look in the problem for what the numbers are. Okay, my is. What is? What is? Okay, well, when it says what is, it means that we don't know what it is, so we should set up a variable. X, what is 83%, 83 out of 100 of 215. What is 83% of 215? And then once you have that problem, then you can cross multiply as usual. 100 times x is 100x. We have a little bit more work to do to multiply 215 times 83. Let's do that over here. 215 times 83. Okay, I'm doing this nice and slow so you can follow. Also, to make sure I don't make a mistake, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 3 is 40. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8. And then we've got, adding the 4, we get 12. Times 2, 16, plus 1 is 17. Add those up. No place for a decimal point, so we've got 1, 7, 8, 4, 5. And then we need to divide by 100. Okay, when you divide by 100, Just in case you don't know the little trick, dividing by 100 is just moving your decimal point over 2 places. So 178.45. Okay, just moving the decimal over 2 places because you've divided by 100. So 178.45 is the answer to this question. All right, so whenever you're doing these problems, is over of is the amount, the rate out of 100. Okay. You're setting them up, you're getting a nice proportion to work with, and then everything is by cross multiplication. So let's go and figure out another one. It's always something out of 100. 14 is, okay, so here's my 14. What percent? Now in this case they say what for our percent. That's our variable. It can be an X, it can be an R. What out of 100 of 35? $14 is what percent of 35? And then you can use cross multiplying to solve just like we did a minute ago. Okay, if it seems repetitive, just stick with me because there are different variations and we just need to make sure you've got it. So 14 times 100 is 1400. Okay, multiplying by 100 is easy. You just add 2 zeros to the end or move the decimal over 2 places if this was a decimal. 35x. Then I want to divide by 35. Okay, so 1400 divided by 35. Well, let's see. 35 goes into 140. Let's try 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 12. There's 14. Okay, we have not used up that 0 yet, so we can't lose it. So we've got 40. So the whole question is what percent? So our answer here on this type is it's 40%. Okay, so 40%. All right, now we still have the is over of is the rate over 100. Is over of. So let's continue on with what we're doing. I'm doing this one. This one has a decimal in it. We'll get to that in a minute. Is over of is something over 100. Is 18 is. 18 is 12%. There's 12% of what number? Okay, this one in this case is now a variable. So you can multiply, cross multiply. 18 times 100 is 1,800. 12x. Then you need to divide by 12. And we're doing a what number here, so we're not getting a percentage at the end. We're just doing 1,800 divided by 12. It goes in once. Once again, erasers are fun and important. 60, and that's 5. Now be careful, one of the things sometimes people get tripped up on is accidentally just saying it's 15, But think for a minute. If you're taking about 1800 divided by about 10, your estimate should be, wow, I'm really going to get about 180. That 15 just doesn't seem right, and it isn't because we haven't taken care of the other 0 yet. You have to always go all the way to the end. So in this case, we get 150. If you line things up correctly over the right place value, it does help you make sure that you come to the end of your dividing problem. Okay? If you have a blank for a digit and they've got a 0 hiding there, the answer is going to be a 0. So the number of what number is 150? 18 is 12% of 150. All right, one more. It's got a decimal involved, but it doesn't have to be scary. Decimals do not have to be scary, neither do fractions. We have something out of 100. We have 82 is. So this is really set up just like the last one. 82 is 3.5. And yes, we can temporarily have a decimal within the fraction, but we don't want to leave it there for too long. What number again is going to be an x? So when you cross multiply 8,200 equals 3.5x, we want to divide both sides by 3.5. And then we need to do the calculations. 8,200 divided by 3.5. But when you do that, don't forget this decimal place has to come over, and we need to add another 0 so we know where we can end this thing. 35 goes into 82 2 times, and that gives you 70. And that gives me a 2, and that gives me a 1. Bring down this 0. 35 goes into 120 3 times, I believe. And we have 15 left over. Bring down the 0. We have not reached the end yet. All right, looks like we're going to need to have another one. So it looks like we're going to need to have a 4 here. And when we do this, 4 times 3, 12. We have 10 left over. One more coming down. And we have a 2. It's a 2. And that would give me a 70, which would give me a 30. And guess what? I don't feel like going out decimal places, so I can take 30 out of 35. I just need to remember to reduce it. Remember, remainder over divisor when you're doing out long division. So I've got 2,342 and 30/35. Now some of you, I hope all of you, are like, wait a minute, red flag, 30/35 can be reduced. It absolutely can. So we're not to the final answer until we have 2,342 and reduce this, divide numerator by 5 and denominator by 5, 6/7. 2,342 and 6/7. That is your answer. 82 is 3.5% of 2,342 and 6/7, and that's an exact answer because you took remainder over divisor. That's where we're going to end for today. When you do your assignment tomorrow, you're going to be working on this material. Today's video report includes some practice for your final exam, so please make sure you've got your thinking cap on and you're ready to actually do great with that as well. All right, there you have it. Have a great, wonderful, blessed day.